Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullin, he sits on the Health Committee and Banking Committee. So what about that? Why now? Why didn't the Democrats do this at some point over the last 4 years?
Well, I think it's a distraction, obviously. I mean, it's obvious that it wasn't a big deal when Biden was there. This is obviously looking a lot worse on them. I mean, you got Summers that was, Epstein's wingman. You have Clinton that was on his plane 26 times. You have the delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, Plaskett.
We'll come to her in a second.
Yeah, who's saying that, who's literally texting him and took a $30,000 donation for the DCCC on it. So I think this is all just a distraction that they're trying to get away from their policies and their ridiculous agenda that they have. I mean, think about this. We were 43 days in a shutdown. Not one word about the Epstein files. The day the government was reopening, they switched immediately. Every left-leaning fake news outlet started running Epstein stuff immediately when it took place. And I think President Trump was smart by saying, release them. Go ahead, get them all out.
And then we had those 3 emails from Jeffrey Epstein that were released by the Democrats,
right,
which they thought cleverly redacted the name of Virginia Giuffre, whose testimony was already well known.
You're right.
To try to throw some more smoke out there that, oh, maybe there's somebody else who's talking about the president. But this does seem to be blowing back to a greater degree on Democrats. You mentioned the delegate from the Virgin Islands,
right,
Stacey Plaskett, who during a hearing in February of 2019 with Michael Cohen was getting real-time coaching via text by Jeffrey Epstein. We put that together. Watch how it unfolded here.
Reduce his real estate taxes. I'm sharing with you 2 newspaper articles side by side that are examples of Mr. Trump inflating and deflating his assets, as I said, to suit his finance testimony. As I noted, I'm giving the committee to
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? As Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot.
I mean, that's just extraordinary. This is a guy who was 4 months away for getting popped for all of the bad stuff
right,
that he had been doing, and she's texting with him real time.
Well, if you read the text, he said ask. I mean, Epstein said ask about Rono, and she said, who's that?
Yeah, is that an acronym?
Yes.
As opposed to knowing that it was
right.
Rona
Yeah, is that an acronym? Does this stand for something? She didn't know who it was, but she was asking the questions. Once again, this doesn't look good at all for the Democrats, but this is all about smoke and mirrors. It's about distractions. You really start looking at this. People said, well, why hasn't President Trump already did this? Why didn't he already release it? The White House was very concerned about just the DOJ files coming out and not the ones that were inside the grand jury. Remember, there's a grand jury in Florida and a grand jury in New York that Pam Bondi has asked them to release the files to, and they haven't agreed to release them. What we wanted to do as the Republican Party is release them all at once with the grand jury and with the open files. I think this is going to blow back directly on them. I mean, even Epstein himself was trying to make President Trump look bad. So obviously didn't have a great relationship.
No, I mean,
but this is like another Russian gate.
He kicked him out of his club by that point, and Epstein was obviously none too happy about it. However, Larry Summers, who appears to be the biggest loser in this so far, he was the Treasury Secretary under Clinton. He was the former president of Harvard. He was Obama's chief economic advisor, had stayed in touch with Epstein for years after the sexual stuff started.
After he was a registered sex offender.
Yes.
Right.
Here's what Larry Summers said. I am deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain that they've caused. I take full responsibility for my misguided decision to continue communicating with Mr. Epstein. He's basically retiring to the proverbial undisclosed location. He says he's withdrawing from public life. But when you have episodes like this with Plaskett and with Larry Summers, I mean, why are the Democrats so fixated on President Trump?
Well, first of all, Summers can try to retire from public life. The truth is, if he did something criminal, knowing it, and he was covering up for Epstein, then he needs to be prosecuted. So you can try to retire and say, I'm getting away from it. You can't. The question needs to come up is, what was Bill Clinton doing on the plane 26 times? Why did Epstein refer to himself as Summers' wingman? What was the close relationship there? You're not a wingman in a situation like that you don't know what's going on the plane and on the private island. And then for him to be able to go ahead and join this new Russian gate, which is the Epstein gate, I guess you want to call it, this complete hoax that somehow President Trump was involved in, when at the same time it was the Democrats that's drawing this story out and trying to make it a big deal that it's not. I can't wait. I really can't wait until this absolutely blows up in the face of the Democrats once again and shows the hypocrisy that they have.
When do you think it goes to a vote before the Senate? What happens?
It could come up as quick as this week. The problem is the president or the speaker, Johnson, has made it very clear that he wants to protect some of the identity of the victims, and he's concerned about the House language, so we'll have to come over here. We'll try fixing that because we don't want to, if the victims don't want to be exposed, we don't want to expose them. So we want to make sure that language is tight. We might be able to get that done this week. If not, I'm sure it'll come up right after we get back from Thanksgiving.
All right, we'll keep watching it. Thank you, Senator, for being with us. Really appreciate you coming over.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
All right.